Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of VCTV with your host, Kyle Ellicott. Today, I am joined by some outstanding members of the VCTV family as investors to share their thoughts and insights on what's happening when it comes to cybersecurity and data privacy in this new digital economy that we are moving into more aggressively and faster than ever before. And so we're going to break down what all is happening, what you need to know as investors, but also what you need to know as entrepreneurs if you're building in these spaces or if you're making bets as investors as well. Big thank you to the LaToken team, to Hasmik and Maria for making today's episode possible. Welcome, everyone. Pleasure to have you here. Vandana, kick us off, a little intro and a little background, please.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Kyle, for having me here. It's a great pleasure to be on LaToken VCTV and sharing the platform with so many esteemed panelists. I had my own family office in Singapore and Jakarta. I worked as an investment banker and advisor to family offices and angel investors in Jakarta, Indonesia, helping startups from a diverse background. And after 15 years of staying there, I came back to India. That is when Convanto was founded. And soon after that, now it is one of the most well-known boutique investment banks led by a female founder. This is the 7th year of Convanto in India. And today I'm also a venture advisor with Loyal VC and a partner with GSD Venture Studios. I'm also selected as one of the top 10 women leaders in wealth management 2021. My brand Convanto comes under the top 10 women entrepreneur brands. My expert opinion is sought in leading business news channels like VCTV, Business World. I've participated in 160 plus talks all over the world, which can be easily seen on YouTube and VCTV streaming sites. I'm connected with 300 plus investors globally, and we pick up global deals. We are sector agnostic. Our ticket size is $1 million to $25 million. And thank you once again for having me here.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us. Gary Fowler speaking of GSDV. Welcome. A little intro and a little background for everybody.
Yeah, great to be here, Kyle. My name's Gary Fowler. I'm a serial entrepreneur investor. I've done 17 startups and involved in 2 unicorns. I was on the original management team of Click Software, which was sold to Salesforce for $1.35 billion, and also Eva.ai, an AI HR tech company. Love artificial intelligence, quantum computing, and cybersecurity, because we all know data is the issue. Data is a key to our lives. Data is the way that we're, as companies, going to be able to move forward, and data is all around us. So I'm the CEO, president, co-founder of GSD Venture Studios, a premier AI and quantum venture studio located in Palo Alto, California. I also am the CEO, president, and co-founder of GSD Accelerator, as well as our new PR firm, GSD Reach. So we're here because cybersecurity is an issue for each one of us. As you can see, on a daily basis, the number of companies have been attacked, the number of companies have had ransomware come after them, and the growing incidents. And again, part of this is a digital transformation because we're all there. I'm also a speaker. I'll be speaking at the United Nations at the 76th General Assembly on the 1st about technology as a tool for peace. I also have my own show, GSD Presents Silicon Valley AI and Tech, and I've written 163 articles on AI, cybersecurity, quantum computing, and entrepreneurship from publications like Forbes, literally all over. So that's me. Thank you. And I love VCTV.
Wonderful. Thank you, Gary. And not just companies, but also individuals as well, as we're going to talk about. Again, digital economy includes all of us beyond just the companies that we're going to be speaking about today. Raghu, close us out. A little intro, a little background real quick.
Hi, Kyle, and always pleasure to be on VCTV with familiar panelists and a very insightful discussion. So I'm a serial entrepreneur, a strategic partner and investor, angel investor in more than 10 companies. I've also been a strategic advisor to about 45 companies through the Vistage framework, which I'm doing now directly. My areas of interest are cybersecurity is one of my primary areas of interest, but also anything deep tech and also has large societal impact. So I've been looking at the cybersecurity space. In my cybersecurity portfolio itself, I have about 5+ companies. One is in data protection, which is SplitByte. There's another company called Squirrel Analytics, which is in network security, compliance. There's another one in critical infrastructure security called BizNucleus. So I look at different aspects in the cybersecurity stack, and I think the pandemic has really highlighted, the issues with cybersecurity now with 25 trillion plus cybercrime that's projected by 2025, and $20 billion of ransom, projected to be paid out this year. So it's an existential problem that needs to be addressed right away. So.
Thank you very much, Raghu. Speaking of the cybersecurity stack, could you walk us through what that is consisting of now as we look at this digital economy? I feel it's a little bit different than it was 18, maybe even 24 months ago. But today, now, cybersecurity stack is something we should all be paying attention to, both as individuals and as companies. Could you walk us through that from your perspective?
Sure. Cybersecurity has different components. There's system security, there is network security, there is data security. Under system security, network security is also kind of under that. And then there is supply chain security. There is, if you look at it, I would look at it more broader way as kind of perimeter or preventive security, which creates like a perimeter of security moat kind of aspect. And then there is after the boom, as they call it. Once an incident, some kind of breach or compromise happens, how do you protect it? Sometimes even being made aware of the breach takes time, like what happened in the solar winds. For months together, it was going on and people didn't even know it happened. So that is after the boom, reactive security. But there is a area of, which is very important, is to provide, proactive security, kind of like the vaccine, in the case of a pandemic. The vaccine is what allows us to go out, even if you're exposed, you're not infected, right? The same kind of thing. Even if your system is compromised, you should have assurance that your data is not breached and you can continue operations. So that I would call that proactive security. So that would be the way to look at it. Of course, there's a lot of technical things in the stack, but I'm looking at it more from system security and data security, because even if system is compromised, data is what is the is really needs to be protected, right? Both continuing operations aspect as well as now with ransomware, not only they block access to your own data, but they also exfiltrate the data and then go to your customers and threaten to leak them and get the second ransom. So it's like you have to protect the data yourself as well as protect it from being taken out. So
So speaking of that, data protection, data privacy, Gary, talk to us a little bit about that from your perspective. I mean, looking at artificial intelligence and how much that plays a role into the world today and future of data, but more importantly, something you've continually said here on VCTV is we're inundated with the amount of data that we have access to. So when we think about that as an individual and as a company, how do you think about the needs and the opportunities around data security and data privacy?
Well, I mean, just look at the U.S. So, 1/4 of the world's economy is here. And at the same time, in 2018, the FBI stated that every citizen of the U.S. should assume that all their data has been taken and hacked. So, I mean, we're talking about an enormous problem. There's 49 zettabytes of data on the planet, as I've said many times. That would be, if you took CDs or DVDs and stacked them one on top of another, that would go 35 times between the Earth and the Moon. What that translates as is it's and growing 68% per year. But think about that enormous problem. And then with all in our own personal clouds, we have about 300,000 items, and within the next 5 years, it'll be 10 million. The digital transformation that's occurred during the pandemic has really put us forward very quickly. In fact, what the McKinsey said 3 years ago would take us next 10 years happened in a matter of 2 years. So we're online. It's a $6 trillion problem today in 2021 in terms of cyber crimes, but expected to grow to 10.5 trillion by 2025. Look at it. I mean, think about destruction of data, stolen money, lost productivity, ransomware, as my buddy Raghu talks about a lot with his company SplitByte. I mean, look at the attacks. Colonial Energy was almost 50% of the energy reserves on the East Coast of the United States were impacted. Hospitals with the private data that's out there. We have got a big problem, and the other challenge is very less than 1% of the folks ever get prosecuted. So the challenge is, as our data keeps coming online, we're going to have more and more threats to us. Why? Because they're using more sophisticated tools. On our side, as you said, artificial intelligence and quantum computing to be able to defend, but we're also going to be attacked by these nefarious individuals. One of the ways to be able to solve it is by using a decentralized approach to cybersecurity, which Raghu can talk about in more detail. But we need to do it now. It's not something that we can wait. We need to make sure we are using intelligent tools to be able to help us to thwart those attacks. It's no longer just about changing your password. It's about how do you protect yourself so you don't get hacked. Anticipate where the holes are going to be. Set yourself up in a decentralized manner so you're not going to be able to be hit. It's a big problem. It's not going to get any better. And, you know, with the Internet of Things, as I said, we're going to each have about 10 million items in our personal cloud. So there's going to be all, look at now, cameras in your house, you know, how many different email accounts, you know, you can have 20 plus repositories, Dropbox, Box, Google Drive, Slack, Messenger, Telegram, WhatsApp. I mean, on and on and on and on. So it's not just one point like the old days, which were a few years ago, right? It's about multiple points, and it's about forecasting where they're going to be attacked. I wrote an article with the former chief security officer at Apple, Rick Orloff. 3 years ago, we were talking about this, to be able to set up these proactive AI enhanced systems to be able to understand where those attacks are going to take place. But now the next generation is, how do we defend against quantum computers and using more of a decentralized approach?
So speaking of decentralized approach, Raghu, I want to come to you next. And as Gary mentioned, you can explain this a little further. Talk to us about the decentralized approach to cybersecurity and what we should be aware of, and again, those opportunity areas as well.
Yeah, I would say cybersecurity has three aspects to it. It's called CIA: confidentiality, integrity, and availability. And so one of the critical things, confidentiality obviously is to make sure the data doesn't get leaked, right? And integrity is that, you know, whatever data that you have, you know, you want to make sure that, you know, the data you're giving is not corrupted. Like, for instance, in ransomware, you have the data, but it's encrypted, so you can't get to it. So it doesn't mean you have the data technically, but you can't access it, right? So availability has to do with, if some things, you know, some system goes down, they still be able to continue to operate, right? So any solution needs to address all these three areas. And so the availability part is where I think the decentralized nature comes in, because by, you know, one example that SplitByte is using is something called verifiable secret sharing. What they do is take the data, randomize it, and put those random numbers, right, which is actually not data. It's like real random numbers. So you can't really, even if you compromise that system, you'll only get random numbers. So it's taking those and then putting it away into multiple locations, which are configurable. It could be 3 out of 5 locations, whatever it is, 5 out of 10, depending on the amount of redundancy you need, right? So, so how this works is that if suppose it's a 3 out of 5 configuration, you need to go to 3 locations to get those random numbers and then put it together, back together, right? So, you know, you still have 2 extra locations. So one location could have ransomware, another one could have hardware system failure. You can still operate with the 3 locations, right? So it gives you a whole level of redundancy, but the additional protection, it's actually reducing the data attack surface. Because if you are just replicating, for instance, suppose you put it in 3 locations, just by replicating, you are actually tripling your data attack surface. But the way that SplitByte is doing, using this verifiable secret sharing platform, you are actually reducing the attack surface, but increasing availability. So that's the kind of solutions we need. Just like blockchain created the transparency using the decentralized approach, this is creating the data protection using the decentralized approach while increasing availability.
Thank you very much, Raghu. And Vandana, I want to come to you next. With the investments that you're making, are you seeing security as a part of the forefront for their applications or a part of their conversation? and even their roadmaps going forward. I mean, making almost 200 investments globally now, I have to think that this have come up in some way, shape, or form. Are you looking for this as an investor? Is this a question you're asking as to where that security piece lies within their companies?
Yes, definitely, Kyle. See, like always, Gary says, we are currently living in an age of infobesity. Big data is not only huge in amount, but it is also complex in terms of the variety of data sets which are now available. And while there are several advantages of leveraging big data, it brings it with its several cybersecurity concerns and data privacy issues. Businesses may be willing to use big data, but they must also be aware of the security remains a top concern. This is in a part because technology is advancing so rapidly that the solutions to security problems often fall behind. Talking about the pandemic, while it has fueled the internet growth and has accelerated the efforts of companies to make a digital presence, it has also increased cyber crimes. In 2020 itself, there was a 40% increase in the cyber complaints, and the healthcare industry alone faced a 150% increase in cyber attacks in few months of the pandemic. Data breaches have increased all around the world, and popular companies like JP Morgan, Target, and Sunny have had hundreds of terabytes worth of data being breached. Therefore, thinking about cybersecurity becomes very important as we are heading towards a more digital economy, which was further reinforced by the pandemic. Now, firstly, we need to focus on expanding attack surface available to cyber criminals. We are in a zettabyte era. In 2016, we surpassed over 1 zettabyte in terms of internet traffic, and it has estimated that the world will store 200 zettabytes of data by 2025. The digital transformation was rapidly pushed by COVID-19 and the need to move individuals working in offices to work remotely from their homes. Now, remote work has created new opportunities for hackers to exploit vulnerable employee devices and networks. And one way to address the expanding attack surface is to use an automation tool chest that can now utilize, horizon scanning technologies, analytics, audits, incident alert tools, diagnostics, and even self-repairing software. Now, artificial intelligence and machine learning technologies can also provide, more efficient decision making by prioritizing and acting on threats, especially across, larger networks and many users. Now, some other trends that we are seeing and our increase in cyber insurance companies. There are SPACs, wherein cybersecurity vendors are merging with huge companies at large valuations. And we hope to see an increase in cybersecurity businesses also. So these are some of the areas where we are looking to make huge investments. And definitely, AI, SPACs, digital economy, machine learning. These are some of the areas where we would be making investments in the next few months.
That's a great point. And Raghu, thank you, Vandana. Raghu, I want to come down to you next around these opportunities of investment. I mean, we're looking very rapidly, as Gary called out, McKinsey, what they were saying we were going to do in 10 years or a decade, we did within a few years. And I think that rapid progression of technology is just going to continue, as we've spoken about here on VCTV. So when we look towards the next year and in the next year and a half, even beyond, where should we be focusing around opportunities for making bets around the cybersecurity and data privacy space? And then Gary, I want to come to you next around the same question around artificial intelligence and how that's playing a role in this. But to Raghu, kick us off. Where should we be looking at as opportunities?
I think the distinct areas is the cybersecurity landscape has changed a lot. Before, the vendors used to be more like on the preventive things like, penetration testing, incident response, more kind of detection, intrusion detection, prevention, those kind of things. And then there's network security. But now it is expanded to include what I would call, it's basically cyber resilience is the term, right? The idea is you want to continue operations. It's not that you kind of shut it down and then figure out how to stand up another server. It needs to happen live so that there's no, loss in business, no downtime, right? And also the other aspect is, of course, you not only have to continue operations, but you have to prevent the data from being breached, because data breaches, the new prevention, the privacy laws, the fines are a lot higher than just the, it's based on your total revenues, a percentage of revenues, so that it hits the business really hard. So technologies that can mathematically assure that there's no data breach, even if your system got compromised, help you a lot in terms of not only handling your cyber insurance premiums, but also privacy compliance, right? So those are areas I think to look at. I think identity authentication management, that is another area that that's basically to more from access control perspective. That is again a pretty mature industry that's been going on for a long time. But I think this kind of decentralized ways of looking at things, especially simulation, where you can actually simulate what happens when there is a breach, right? Those technologies are very important, because you are actually making something happen that help you mitigating like a real life scenario, right? It's not just like doing it, reacting when something happens. And then supply chain aspect has been brought to the fore based on SolarWinds, because even if your systems are all in place, but your vendor systems that you're incorporating, you also need to make sure those are also certified. So that kind of just like we have CMMI, there is a similar capability maturity model happening in the cybersecurity stack. So that including for small businesses. Before it used to be more the larger businesses that worried about it, but now everybody needs to worry about it, and the new regulations require even small businesses and to be compliant. So I think there is a lot of opportunity. Edge security is another one, because of IoT and the spread of devices, which are not necessarily computers that people work on, but they are still places where hackers can come in, which is how most of the infrastructure type of things happen. So the edge security is another important play. And I think Gary will talk more about the AI aspect, because AI, you can also get in through the data.
Yeah.
So,
Gary, talk to us about AI and those opportunities as well.
So, in terms of investment, or what perspective, Kyle?
Yeah, in terms of where we should be looking at for the next year and a half.
Yeah, sure.
Artificial intelligence plays a role in data security and data privacy.
Sure.
Playing on Raghu's comments.
Yeah. So, the situation, we're moved from a semi-supervised to an unsupervised world. And in terms of the investments, it's just, we're going to come up with these, what I call intelligent assistants. And in fact, it's going to be one of my articles in Forbes, because it's beyond smart, kind of like a guardian angel, kind of like, Kyle, what Morpheus is becoming now. By the way, Morpheus just wrote me some music. And this will be more like having your grandmother as your guardian angel that'll watch your data, help you with health, basically be kind of like Jarvis for Iron Man in a kind way. So what we're seeing is these unsupervised models come out, but at the same time, there's only so much. The human brain processes 60,000 complex transactions per day, Kyle. We're going beyond our capability. We need systems unsupervised that can actually forecast where those attacks are going to occur and plug the holes. Now, the wild card here is quantum computing. When a computer is 100 million times faster than a supercomputer, what that means is that what would take 10,000 years on the fastest supercomputer today is estimated by Google that would take 200 seconds. So combine that with unsupervised AI, and we've got nefarious characters on one side. By the way, they say the Bitcoin could be broken by as early as 2022 with quantum computers and artificial intelligence from nefarious folks. So we need to plug those holes. I know it's tough. Most people don't think about it till they have an attack. But the best thing we could be doing today is develop these agents, these guardian angels, intelligent assistants to be able to help us. So where's AI gone? AI is moving to the unsupervised realm. It's being partnered up with quantum computers, and we need to be able to have a line of attack. I know a few months ago, I had a 4-star admiral on my show, GSD Presents, and Admiral Bill Owen. He's a former #2 guy in the U.S. military. And one of the things that happens, he said something very interesting. He said the next big war will happen with the flip of a switch. We had better make sure, because think about the vulnerabilities we have in our grid. Think about all the places around us that could be shut down, hospitals, data being taken. We need to prepare now. And I'm not trying to scare folks. What I'm saying is it's better. It's like being a Boy Scout. It's time to be prepared.
Absolutely. Thank you, Gary. Vandana, closing thoughts, anything else you'd like to cover on today's topic around the future of cybersecurity, data privacy, and then where can you be found online?
Yeah, so the cybersecurity industry is growing annually at 14.5% and seeing increased early stage investments in startups. Now, the first quarter of 2021 saw 12 cybersecurity unicorns created globally, which is more than double than the previous one, the previous quarterly high. And with the increasing cybersecurity concerns, this becomes an interesting industry from an investment perspective. Some sectors of interest would be IoT security companies, cloud security solutions, and fraud protection technologies. There have been increasing attacks on supply chains, so there are startups which are helping with that, and inventory and asset management also. This year, Orca Security and Oxy News are some of the top cybersecurity companies, and many more upcoming businesses that are experiencing, in the ecosystem. And I could be reached out at www.convanto.com or my LinkedIn handle at Vandana Tolani. One could also find me on Google. So thank you once again for having me here.
Thank you as well, Vandana. Gary, back to you. Any closing thoughts? Where can you be found online?
Yeah, so this digital transformation's upon us, as we've seen over the last couple of years with Zoom, with StreamYard, with a lot of the technologies. We move online because we now have a capability to reach anybody, virtually anybody, anywhere at any time. And so let's focus on how we protect ourselves. It's a great opportunity. Startups that are out there, these are some of the areas that are really hot: cybersecurity, AI, quantum. Take a look at them. You can reach me, Gary Fowler, on LinkedIn. You can reach me on Twitter. I'm also on Instagram now, and I'm on Apple, iTunes. I've got my podcast. I got my podcast on Google, etc. So check it out, Spotify. And go get them. Stay happy, stay healthy, and stay safe.
Thank you very much, Gary. Raghu, close us out. Closing thoughts. Where can you be found online?
Sure. I can be reached on LinkedIn at Raghu S. Rao. And I think cybersecurity is a very interesting area, both for entrepreneurs and investors, because it's, as I said, it's become an existential problem that affects everybody who's using data, right? So it's something that is here to stay for the next probably I think the number one priority is cybersecurity for everybody, and so it's a good area to invest in. And I think the key element to look for in the cybersecurity space is just like other areas like AI and quantum and all are advancing. How can we apply those technologies to protect ourselves? Because the bad actors will always be finding new areas to breach things. So in addition to advancing all the solutions from the good aspect of technology, you also need to cover the bad aspects from law enforcement, prevention, protection. So that's where cybersecurity is at. So
wonderful. Thank you very much, Vandana, Raghu, Gary. Appreciate all the thoughts and insights around today's topic, cybersecurity and data privacy. To our audience, thank you so much for tuning in. If you like what you heard, make sure you like, share, and subscribe on today's episode. Please do reach out to each and every one of our investors, myself included, and please do add context where you heard us, where you met us, and what you would like to continue the conversation about. as well. With that, a big thank you to the LaToken team, to Hasmik and Maria for making today's episode possible. I'm your host, Kyle Ellicott. We'll be back here tomorrow with more VCTV. Until then, everyone have a wonderful day. Take care.
Bye-bye.